Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Freeman Foundation podcast, or TFF podcast. On this podcast, we like to talk about health and well-being, spirituality, arts, music, and culture. Today, we have with us a special guest from New York City who is a yoga teacher. And let's welcome in Vasi Papadopoulos. Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Thanks so much. Yeah. I love this space. It's amazing.
Oh, isn't the slide fun? What do you
Yes.
think?
The slide was definitely an unexpected surprise, but very fun. Definitely got me loosened up.
Yes.
For our chat.
Just like yoga. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. So I've been living in between New York and London now for the past 2 years. And I became a yoga teacher last year. And what I've found is, because in my day job, I work for a branding and advertising company, and I have a pretty stressful life. And doing my yoga program really helped me find balance in this kind of crazy life that I'm living, and really helped me tune in to qualities that I feel are hard to find in today's kind of busy modern life.
Yes, I love that. I feel like that's very relatable to most people, if not everyone in the world. It's such a fast pace.
It's such a fast pace. If you live in a city, if you kind of work like a traditional job, I think life has a lot of stresses. And so it's really good to find that outlet for you that brings you balance, that brings you peace, that brings you that little bit of stillness in your day. And for me, that's been yoga.
How nice. Yeah, I could see how coming from New York and then being based between New York and London, which are obviously two of the most bustling, high energy, fast paced cities in the world, that you would need to find something to stay grounded and have a bit of balance.
Totally. And actually, I was always planning to live in London full time. And but because of my work, I was going back and forth a lot, and that created a whole other array of stresses, jet lag and not eating right and not sleeping well. And one of the things that happened during lockdown, actually, which was one of the silver linings for me, was that I was forced to go back to New York, and I basically moved in with my parents for 4 months. And for the first time in 10 years, I wasn't traveling every other week, and I wasn't running around the city. And I was so resistant at first because it was so not normal for me. But then I found it was incredibly healing and amazing, and just the fact of being still in one place for 4 months taught me so much, and was really restorative. And now that I'm back in London, I'm approaching this whole idea of travel in a very different way. Nowadays with COVID, it's not responsible to travel too much, so I'm really trying to stay present and try to stay here in one location as much as I can, and appreciate it.
How nice. Isn't it interesting how, even though the world's in such a crazy, unprecedented state at the moment, there are actually those silver linings in it?
Yeah.
Like, I found kind of similar experience last year. I was here in London for 6 months and just go, 20 hours a day, like nonstop. And my mom kept telling me, I'm so proud of you. You got to keep it up, but you have to take time to take care of yourself and pause. And when I flew to Tennessee for Christmas with my family, I literally barely got off the couch for almost 2 months. I was just like, family dinners and couch. That's all I can do.
And your body tells you when it needs that. It's like, it just either you get sick, or you start to shut down, or you start to just like not be able to get up off the couch.
Exactly.
And when that happens, you have to just listen, because your body is very wise. And I think that one of the things we do in modern life is we fight our body a lot, and we push ourselves so much and we want to be productive all the time, and we want to get things done and check things off our to-do list, and that's all well and good, but if you're not taking that time to rest, you're not really appreciating your life, and you're not really living your life in the most productive way. I find that I really need to take that time to rest so that I can then come back and be super productive at work and at life. But a lot of people feel guilty about it, you know? I think people have been taught that they always need to be on, that they always need to be available, like they always need to be responding to text messages and Instagrams and WhatsApps. And I think it's really important to just detach and do whatever it is that you need to do for you without worrying about what other people need from you, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and it's not selfishness. I think a lot of people worry that that may come across as selfish, or, you know, what if my friends are offended that I'm not getting right back to them? But it's not selfishness. It's actually self-care. And when you do it in a way that's kind to the people around you, and you just tell them it's nothing with you, it's just I'm taking some time for me, it may actually even give them permission to take that time for themselves and show them that it's possible to do that too. I think we're all just looking for an excuse to take that time for ourselves sometimes. And that's probably what COVID did for some people too. You know, I've heard a lot of people say that it gave them the opportunity to simplify a little bit, to get rid of some excess stuff in their life. When you think about it, we can't go out as often. You know, there's a curfew at 10 o'clock. We're all spending a lot more time at home, cooking, you know, spending time with friends rather than running around. And maybe that's not a bad thing.
Exactly. We were actually just talking about that with some friends that were here last night for the sound healing, the liquid gold movement sound experience. And at the end of it, I found myself laughing to myself. And then we were all talking in a group about how it was just kind of, we can get so caught up in the fast pace and the expectations and this and that. But once you really tune in and see that there's so much more going on than that, realize that it really, a lot of the stuff that we place so much importance on doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
And then there's things that actually do matter that need space and time and silence and solitude to cultivate.
Absolutely.
Which are so much more potent and impactful in our lives. Charlie had some stuff to say about that, but he's recording in the studio right now, so see him on the next
busy
episode.
Life,
yes. But so how have you found that yoga and your practice with yoga and learning to be a yoga teacher has helped you kind of restore some of that balance or create a sense of balance in your life?
Absolutely. Well, when I decided to do the yoga teacher training program, it was actually really kismet. I had just done a yoga trip in Uruguay, and it was amazing because for 1 week I just did yoga and went swimming every day and watched the sunrise and watched the sunset. It was really close to nature and the elements, and really went back to kind of zero to really reset. And it was a tough time because like a lot of things actually came up in that setting that I needed to just process and release. But once that process was done, I just felt amazing. And when I got back to New York, I thought there must be a way that I can continue feeling amazing and continue like nourishing my body and my mind in this way. And I really want to take it to the next step with my yoga because it's given me so much, and I want to be able to give back. And it wasn't about, you know, becoming a full-time yoga teacher. I love the work that I do. I work in a really creative job with amazing designers and photographers and filmmakers, and I love that. But I love yoga too. So I really wanted to find a teacher training that I could do with my full-time job and just learn as much as I could about yoga, not just the physical postures, and because I'm not even that flexible. I can't really do handstands. But for me, it was more about not just the physical postures, but the emotional benefits of yoga and the philosophies of yoga and how to treat people with kindness, how to treat yourself with kindness, how to be still, how to accept what is versus try to change things. And as I began this teacher training, and it was very kismet, I went to a acupuncturist that my friend had recommended, and I had hurt my back, and I was in this acupuncturist studio, and the receptionist had all these yoga posters behind her, and I was like, oh, is this a yoga studio too? And she was like, it is, and we're just starting our 200-hour teacher training on Monday, which was like 4 days away. So any doubts that I had had about doing this and making it happen and finding the time in my busy schedule, I was just like, this is the sign that I need to do it. And not only that, it was one of the best teacher trainings I believe that exists in the world. And Rodney Yee and Colleen Sedman, who run the teacher training, are just incredible, incredible people. And I had heard so much about them. So it was like divine, intervention that I just fell into the studio and signed up for the teacher training 3 days before it was scheduled to begin.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like divine timing.
I love when things like that happen, because they're just these little signals from the universe that, like, yeah, you're on the right path. Like, don't stress, like every time you get one of those little divine interventions, I like to call them, it's just really reassuring that whatever you're doing, it's all good, And sometimes the opposite is true too. Sometimes if you're really trying to make something happen and it's not working out, you just need to take a step back, because maybe it's not meant to work out that way.
Exactly.
I believe in working hard, but I also believe in not over-efforting. If you're trying too hard, maybe it's not meant to be.
Exactly.
Anyways, it was definitely meant to be, and I signed up. And one of the first things that I realized was, oh my God, there's so much to learn. I could literally do this for years and years and years and be nowhere near where I want to be. And that's very intimidating. But I stuck with it. And even though I had doubts about, oh, I'm not the most advanced person in this class, and I haven't been doing yoga for as long, and I can't hold a headstand as long, and I don't know the words in Sanskrit.
All the sort of roadblocks or potential roadblocks or limiting beliefs. But once you get through that.
All of those doubts are totally natural. And one of the things that the teacher said from the very beginning was to embrace beginner's mind, which is so special. We all, once we become adults, we become experts in certain things. We're good at some things, not good at other things, or at least we tell ourselves that. And sometimes it's hard to try something new because you're insecure that you're not doing it right, or you're not good enough. But beginner's mind is like, if you don't begin, you never
get started. That's the thing that's so interesting. And I love what you were saying about getting into teaching yoga and how it was kind of daunting at first because you were a beginner in certain ways. And that's something, just for a bit of context for the listeners, Vasi taught a yoga class here on Monday, and it was amazing. It was one of my favorite yoga classes I've ever done. But one thing that I really liked about it was at least half of the class hadn't really done yoga before, very much at all. I have done yoga over the years, but not really so much in the past year. And I think it was staggering levels of yoga expertise, but a lot of us were beginners. And I loved the way that you would give, well, first of all, just your approach being very palatable, very digestible for anyone, whether you're a yogi or just a person living in this world. And also how you would give the positions, but then give the different alterations of the positions. And I noticed that you would often do the most simple alteration, which made people feel more comfortable who couldn't do the more advanced ones. And it created an energy that was fun and playful while still intentional. But like when we were doing the headstands or handstands, and I couldn't really do it, but I wanted to so bad, and I was yelping and falling over. I feel like in a regular yoga class, I would be like, oh my God. But in that one, just the sense of community and fun, light, openness.
It should be fun. It should feel good, and you should feel really safe. Like the best yoga classes, you should feel so safe that you can try anything and it will be fine, and that's exhilarating for a lot of people because they're scared to even try. But it's about creating that environment where the people around you have created a safe space for you to be a beginner and for you to try. And I have a little niece who just turned 2. And I remember when she started walking, it was just so exciting and so exhilarating. But it was totally wonky. I mean, it was like, just like she did not, it took her weeks and months to like get from standing to like taking those first steps to then running. And I just think about that every time I try something new. When we're young, we have no hesitation because we have no expectation about what something should look like or be like. And then as we get older, we start to judge ourselves a lot. We start to compare ourselves with others, and it's really inhibiting.
Yeah.
And it's also just not necessary.
Exactly. I love what you're saying about trying new things. Izzy, our DOP, and I were talking about this earlier, just how we all ended up meeting and coming together and how all of this sort of evolved. I mean, I had never run a philanthropic organization before. She had never been DOP. We were just like building in these ways. And then we would have conversations like, my mom used to tell me, imagine the life that you want and imagine what you want your day-to-day to look like. Like, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be around? How do you want to feel? And with this, when we started working together, it was like, okay, so what do you want to do? Like, there's so many opportunities here. Think about what you want to do. And just having the courage, I guess, to step into, to visualize what your ideal day-to-day would be like, or an opportunity or an experience, and then just have the courage to dive into it head first and know that like a baby, you're probably going to stumble and it's not going to be like a perfect ballerina in the opera or whatever, but it's, you know, nobody looks at a baby stumbling and is like, oh, you silly baby, you know, like you're just proud of them for walking.
Right.
So I feel like we should
do
implement that as adults as well.
Absolutely.
Which is, I love that message of what you're talking about.
I always try to learn new things, and whether it's yoga or I took surf lessons last year and I was so nervous, and just like, it's so exhilarating doing something new, and it's really good for your brain and it's really good for your body, because otherwise things can just get stale or uninspiring. And I think as humans, we're very adaptive and we're meant to be trying new things all the time.
Exactly. And I feel like that's even maybe where, like with mental health and the topic, since it's Mental Health Awareness Day a few days ago, I've personally struggled with anxiety and depression and different forms of mental illness in my life. And so personally reflecting, I feel like when I've struggled with those things, it's when I've maybe gotten stagnant or stopped trying new things, or, you know, some kind of element of not giving my body what it needs, whether it's nutritionally or environmentally. And if we can keep doing new things, like you say, or taking these opportunities and finding the balance, I feel like that will help. At least personally, it helps me with my mental health.
I feel the same. I feel like I can get into those zones too, where I just, you know, life becomes very kind of tunnel vision, and you're just, there's one thing after the next, and it creates a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, and you're constantly chasing, you know, everything that you need to do, that you need to get done, and phone calls you need to return, and it just creates a sense of ickiness and kind of fear and like the opposite of enjoyment. And I think what's amazing is if you can create space to just be still or do new things, it's enjoyment, it's inspiration, it's excitement. It can totally change the way you're feeling. And you don't even have to change your circumstances or your job or move to another city or do anything like of that scale. You can literally just take a new route to walk in the morning, or, you know, like, I don't know.
Try something you've never tried before. Just get out of your comfort zone a bit. Yeah, it's really interesting. And then I feel once you're vibrating at a frequency where you're inspired and you're excited and you're passionate and motivated, and happy, that's the kind of energy that attracts the kind of people that you want to be around, with the whole vibe attracts your
sure.
tribe thing. You know, once you're thriving on an individual level, whatever that means to you, but energetically feeling good.
I think so too. Look, I mean, for example, this podcast even today, I mean, you asked me a couple of days ago and I was so thrilled and so excited to be a part of it. And I've never been on a podcast before.
Yeah.
So I could have been like, hey, Bailey, that sounds really cool, but I've never been on a podcast before. So I'm too scared to do it, or like, I don't know what to expect or whatever. But because you're a great friend,
thank you.
and because you inspire me, I thought, hey, why not? You know?
Exactly.
And here we are. So
you took the leap of faith.
And I went down the slide.
Yeah, you went down the slide. That's the big leap for everybody that's been on it so far. I feel like we're so desensitized to the slide because I've probably been down it 100 times. I'm sure Charlie's been down it way more than that. So we're just like, yeah, we'll get them to come down the slide. It'll be a great intro. But a few people have been like, oh, really, the slide? But it's so nice that you took that leap of faith, and the way that we met even and stayed in touch, and the way that this all came together. It's so special to be sitting here right now with you on the podcast.
I know, you're right. We met in February of this year, or January, and so much has happened since then. We both left London for a really long period of time. And we both gravitated back.
And now here we are.
Yeah.
Which is
really
so awesome.
exciting.
And we're looking forward to you doing more yoga classes here at the foundation when you're back from New York.
Absolutely.
What about, because one big point of the podcast is to give the listeners from wherever they are in the world some tangible take-home tools that they can use internally from their home, their own place. So would you have a few kind of takeaways that people could use and internalize themselves in terms of achieving balance and maybe relating it with yoga?
Yeah, absolutely. So many. But I'll just reel off a few that have really helped me in the past few years. Meditation. This is something that I'm really trying to work into a daily practice. So I'm not practicing daily, but I notice that when I do, even if it's 5 minutes, it's life-changing. So finding that 5 or 10 minutes in the morning, right after you wake up, to just sit, close your eyes, tune into your body, be still, it's really incredible. And then this book called The Magic, that's about gratitude, and it has 28 gratitude practices in it. It's amazing. Ever since I started practicing gratitude, it's completely shifted my worldview to the point where literally you can be having the worst day and then just sit down and journal out 10 things that you're grateful for. And it just shifts your perspective immediately. I think too many of us are not grateful for where we are. We always see where we're lacking or where we want to fix things or change things. But when you think about what's good in your life, like the people in your life, that you know, the food or the parks or the music or whatever it is, the fact that the sun came out today, all of those little things can really change your mindset in a really positive way.
That's one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever been given. When I was 16, I was doing an internship with this amazing woman that has a communication company in Canada. She was really inspiring. And I was dealing a lot with depression and anxiety at that point. And she was like, just literally every day, wake up and write a list of 10 things that you're grateful for, and then read it out to the universe. And that alone will change your life. It's exactly what you're saying. And it really... You know, I always have to keep reminding myself to keep doing it. It's like any of these mindfulness or health-related practices, you know, internalizing it, doing it every day or as often as we can. But I love that one. And what about in relation to yoga, or if people maybe aren't yogis, but they're interested in how it could benefit them, or like what the first steps would be to take?
I would just take a class. You know, there's so many great classes online now too. I know a lot of people like Yoga with Adrienne, and there are just so many wonderful tools online. Or if you have a friend that does yoga, you know, ask them to go to a class with them. But I think at the end of the day, yoga is really about moving your body, but also moving your body in a way that creates openness and stillness and emptiness, because we're constantly like attracting all this baggage and stuff, and yoga is a way. After every class, I feel like I've just been like, you know, like cleaned out like a rag, just wrung out. And those are the real benefits for me, and I think everyone has their own relationship, but just go to a class. Like, I love how much people are embracing yoga all over the world. And the right teacher is really important. You should feel good after a class. You should not feel like, ooh, my back, or oh, my thigh. Like, don't, you know, the classes where you feel like you have to overexert or get into some crazy position, that, I don't think that's right. You should always feel a sense of openness, and even if it's uncomfortable and challenging, it should feel good at the end. So yeah, if you don't feel good after, that's not a good class, and you shouldn't take it.
Maybe having a sense of kind of patience with where you're at individually in your journey with yoga.
Yes.
Like a few months ago, I went to a yin class for the first yoga class I'd been to in a long time, and I think I fell asleep for most of it because I was just finally so relaxed. But even that was nice, you know, it's setting the space to go, and I was mostly in child's pose and in the most simple poses, but the breathing.
That's fine. I mean, one of my teachers, Rodney, he says that Shavasana is like the most important pose. And that's the pose at the end, final resting pose, where you literally just lie on your back with your palms up and just release everything. And so many people I've noticed jump up and like run out the class as if that's not important, when it's actually the most important part of the class. It's where you integrate everything you've done. It's where you come back to your body and go inwards. And I think that we're all in such a rush for that like external stimulation and validation. We're kind of uncomfortable with being with ourselves, and I think the more we can cultivate that sense of it's okay to be with yourself and it's okay to be in stillness, the more rewarded you will be.
Yeah, exactly. What would you say about, for people who are interested in maybe taking a yoga teaching course, like how did that change how you interact with it?
I get a lot of questions about that. I think it's becoming definitely more popular as yoga becomes more popular, and I would really highly recommend it, and I would do research to find one that's right for you, because there's so many different kinds. Again, the one I did was so wonderful with Colleen Sedman and Rodney Yee, and I would just, you know, once you decide to do it, I would just stick with it, because a lot of people, myself included, started the training and we got so overwhelmed the first couple of weeks. In the first class, this girl, half an hour into it, was like, is it too late to like quit the training? and good for her, she stuck with it, and she became a close friend, but it was so overwhelming. I think people were like, whoa, what have I gotten myself into? But once you decide to do it, just stick with it. It will teach you so much. It will give you so many tools to improve your life, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And the philosophies around yoga are so amazing, like the yamas and the niyamas, and how to live your life, and how to be kind, and how to be truthful, and how to be non-harming. It's so rich, and it's like the gift that keeps on giving. You can literally learn about it your entire life.
Yeah, which is almost a metaphor of everything that we go through in life. It's like a continuous, you know, you never really get to where you know everything. Like it's a constant, but even with the internal journey.
But I highly recommend it. I think it's changed my life so much for the better. And even in my work, which is something totally opposite. So, you know, very commercial, branding, advertising, to the point where I was even worried to tell my work that I was going to be doing this course, because I thought they were going to think, well, wow, what does that mean? Are you going to be a yoga teacher now? So But my boss said to me once I finished it, and it was the most wonderful compliment he could have given me, but he said, you know, you've always been calm, but ever since you've done the yoga teacher training, it's just a whole other level. He's like, whenever there's a stressful situation, you always know how to diffuse it, and it's been so wonderful.
Wow.
You know,
so it's really impactful in all of the areas of your life.
Exactly. You'll be amazed at how much it actually has these knock-on effects, not just in your work, but with your family too. Like my younger sister was pregnant with twins this summer, and it was so nice to be able to give her postures that would, you know, help her back feel better or help her feel more relaxed. And you know, teaching my family some classes, even my little 2-year-old niece, you know, it spills into all areas of your life in really wonderful ways.
Amazing. So now I know that you have a nephew that was just born in New York. So you're going back for a little trip after your time in Monaco.
Yeah.
And then you plan to return. So do you have any kind of plans or ideas for the near future with yoga and your practice?
Yeah, I basically just want to continue partnering with you guys, you know, TFF, and I love the work you're doing, and I love the sound baths and the, you know, the dance and the yoga. So I just love to teach a regular class with you guys. Unfortunately, I was teaching a class every Saturday in Hyde Park when the weather was nice.
Yes.
And it was so beautiful with the trees and the sun, but now that we're going into winter, I think it's going to be pretty tough to do that.
Yes.
So finding a place where I can teach. Yeah.
Here we are. Lucky us. We get Vasi Papadopoulos teaching a regular class from November until at least the end of December.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are in London, you can check us out on the freemanfoundation.co.uk for details about those classes, when they will be taking place. And check out the links below for Vasi's Instagram and the website link and the Freeman Foundation Instagram. But I am Bailey Lalonde with the Freeman Foundation, and this is Vasi Papadopoulos, and thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Bailey.
Thank you.
That was great.